Hello everyone, my name is John Yee. My two boys had Miss Frenchler as a teacher in 6th grade, as well as some of the other teachers. I've got a chance to meet pretty much all the teachers at Matsuyama, and they are all very good. Rhonda stood out. First time I heard about Miss Frenchler was when me and my wife first had our first child. I knew that we had to look at schools. So my nephew Richard actually went to Matsuyama, and I asked Richard who his favorite teacher at Matsuyama was. Who does he remember? And he said, the teacher I liked the most was Miss Frenchler. That's the very first time I heard about Miss Frenchler, her name. So I thought, okay, a few years later, my kids go to kindergarten. They have Miss Berry. 2nd grade, first grade, they have Ms. Z, my two boys. So I volunteered because Norman Tanaka, if he's still here, yes he is, he actually asked me if I could volunteer, and I thought, how embarrassing for a guy to volunteer as yard duty, but most of them are moms. But I'm an involved parent, and I said, yes, I'll do it if nobody else stands up. So Norman, the next day I saw Norman, and I said, did anybody volunteer for yard duty? And he goes, no. And I said, okay, well, on Monday, if nobody volunteers, I promise you I'll volunteer. So when Monday came around, I saw Norman, I said, did anybody volunteer? Please say yes. And he said, no, nobody volunteered. I said, okay, I made a promise, I'm gonna volunteer for yard duty. So I had to tell my wife and my kids. So, and I'm really happy and grateful I did, because I got a chance to meet all the teachers there. Like I said, they're all really, really good. In the back of my mind, I knew Miss Frenchler was Richard, my nephew Richard's favorite teacher. So you kind of learn and meet all the teachers, and like I said, they're all really good. My first son had Miss Frenchler in 6th grade, and first time I met Miss Frenchler, I introduced myself, and she looked at me. She looked me up and down. And she looked at me, and I looked away. Oh, wow. And I'm pretty tough. I went to Burbank, and I'm thinking I'm pretty tough. I'll find out she went to Burbank as well. And I thought, wow, she's tough. Okay, now we have something in common. So I got a chance to meet, work along with Miss Frenchler and all the other teachers my kids had. And when I found out about Miss Frenchler, please God, please God. When I found out about Miss Frenchler, I had to tell my two boys. So I called my oldest one, and I said, James, Miss Frenchler passed away, I just want to let you know. And my oldest son said, I'm sorry, Dad. And I said, yeah, it's okay. And he said, she was my favorite teacher, her and Mr. Hanks. When I think about Matsuyama, I think about Mr. Hanks and Miss Frenchler. And I said, yeah, I know where you're coming from. And then I told my youngest son, who had Miss Frenchler, 1 year after, and I said, John Paul, his name is John Paul. I said, John Paul, I just called to let you know that Miss Frenchler passed away. And John Paul said, did you know she hates kids? He was in my car when I told him, and I looked at him. I'm driving and he's on my right, and I looked at him, I said, are you kidding me? What did she do to you guys? And my son goes, her license plate, do you know what it says? I go, no. What does it say? It says, the letter I, the letter H, the number 8, the letter K, the letter I, the letter D, the letter Z. I hate kids. And I looked at him and I go, no, she doesn't. She loves you guys. And then he looked at me and he goes, I know, Dad. She does. And he goes, can I have her license plate? I thought, why? He goes, I like personalized license plates. I thought it was really nice. It's very unique. And I go, I didn't know that. So some of you probably realize, or I don't know if it's true or not, that a license plate says I hate kids. Is that true? It must say that on something. And I asked my oldest son the same thing, and he said, yeah, she has a license plate that says that. And I thought, I don't know where this is coming from, but I told him, no, she doesn't. I just wanted to share that story with you.